This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, January 13th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of those stories, and try to help each other understand.
Today we'll hear from Matt on the right to repair and an email from R.W. Nash.
I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this is a brand new version of Daily Tech News Show. I'm so excited you're joining me, Jason.
I'm super excited, too. This is just such an honor to be invited to be part of this iteration of DTNS. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. Those of you who've followed every blow-by-blow account on Patreon kind of know the process. But for those of you who haven't, maybe you're just on the ad-supported public feed, we have been surveying the audience and brainstorming and doing all kinds of things to try to figure out how to make Daily Tech News Show work better for more people. And the short version is there were two main groups of people in the audience, folks who really wanted us to lean into the analysis and the explanations and keep it concise, keep it to 30 minutes and less. And there were people who were like, I want more discussion. I want you to take what you do and give me more of that, more personality. And so what we're doing here is that concise version, Daily Tech News Show briefing. That will be me. It'll be Jason. Occasionally it'll be Rob Dunwood, Wentway Dow, Jen Cutter. And we will be focusing on giving you the context and the analysis. If you're looking for what you might call the old show, that is now DTNS Live. It has its own feed. If you're a patron, you get the whole thing, but just go search for DTNS Live or go to dailytechnewsshow.com/subscribe. That's me and Roger and Sarah and Scott Johnson, Justin Robert Young and Rob Dunwood doing more discussion-oriented stuff. The idea is you get to choose your flavor. You're welcome to listen to both of them if you got time. I understand that not everybody does, but we're trying to make it so that you can choose, do you want the pistachio, the chocolate chip, or the vanilla?
Yeah, change can be scary, but you know what's better than change? Choice. And now you have choice.
Yeah, not too many choices. We're not trying to burden you.
Yeah,
with choices.
We don't need 31 flavors in our DTNS, but yeah.
Yeah. And normally we will not start with a big discussion like this, but because it's the first episode, I just wanted to kind of set the table for everybody. Well, Jason, shall we?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. The outgoing U.S. presidential administration proposed an interim final rule. Final rule on artificial intelligence diffusion Monday. It's a broad-based way to keep GPUs used for AI applications out of the hands of China. So they already have a block on sending them directly to China, but a lot of times they go to other markets and then make their way around to China. This is trying to slow them down through those other markets. If implemented, there would be 3 licensing tiers for GPUs. The first tier would be unrestricted. That would be 18 of the U.S.'s allies. If you're going to send a GPU to Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Taiwan, or the UK, you can. You don't have to get a license for that. You're fine. The second tier includes most of the rest of the world. So Israel, Mexico, Portugal, Switzerland. It would let GPU orders with collective computation power up to roughly 1,700 advanced GPUs. I'll let you kind of wrap your mind around that. But basically, desktop GPUs are fine. All of that, those can be exported to the countries without a license. If you want those advanced GPU power, then there's a cap. So you can send GPUs that are the equivalent of 1,700 advanced GPUs up to 50,000 times per country per year, 50,000 units per country per year. There are ways for governments and private entities within those countries to get verified as trustworthy to purchase GPUs above that cap. The idea is they're trying to limit it so that those countries only take the GPUs they can need and they won't pass them along to the third tier. And the third tier continues to require a license if you want to sell AI-capable GPUs of any kind. That includes China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And of course, a license to sell to those companies in most cases is going to be denied. This proposal, and I want to emphasize it's a proposal, would also restrict U.S.-based companies from sharing many details about generative models with countries outside the first tier, and permission would be needed to build data centers in any countries outside the first tier. Now, they'll get permission. In fact, there's already some grandfathering in the proposal, but you won't be able to just go and build it. The idea behind this rule, like I said, is to slow down the export of not just GPUs, but technology to Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. The Semiconductor Industry Association issued a statement warning that the rules would damage the U.S. economy and push most countries to work with China. NVIDIA also opposes the law. Are you shocked, Jason?
No, not at all.
Yeah. And regarding the incoming administration, said, we look forward to a return to policies that strengthen American leadership, bolster our economy, and preserve our competitive edge. So kind of sucking up to the new folks. Microsoft President Brad Smith issued a statement saying that Microsoft could comply fully with this rule's high security standards and meet the technology needs of countries and customers around the world that rely on us. So Microsoft more positive about this. The rules are up for comment for 120 days. That's 4 months, right? Am I doing the math right?
Yeah, I think
30?
You got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That means the new U.S. presidential administration will make the decision about how to modify these rules before they get put in place based on the comments. So the rules are up. You've got 4 months to make a comment, and then a totally different administration is going to decide what to do about this. In a slightly related story, what I started to say just a second ago, the information sources say Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta are delaying further orders of NVIDIA's Blackwell chips due to some issues with racks overheating. Maybe that's why Microsoft isn't worried about this. They're like, we're not even ordering the new ones anyway. Bad news day for NVIDIA because of both these stories. We'll see how big that overheating issue really is. But getting back to the restrictions, it's an odd move for an administration that is 7 days away from its wrap up at this point, especially because it kicks the ball into the next administration's court where they could entirely gut it. It also gives the incoming administration a bargaining chip with NVIDIA and China to strike deals domestic and foreign. My guess is that by May, when this comment period ends, this is dead in the water, Jason. I don't know what you think.
I know. I mean, I get the same exact kind of impression on something like this. Not to mention, we know the incoming administration, or at least from what it seems like they've been signaling, pretty AI friendly, like not to mention norms, removing norms, removing a lot of things in the process that, might have been taken for granted with the previous administration. Not to mention might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and say, you know what, we want to be the ones to determine our fate, to determine our destiny. And this has the stink of the Biden administration all over it. So why don't we just set that aside? We'll come up with our own rules. It's really up in the air. It
really is up in the air because on some measures, NVIDIA has not been as friendly, not donating to the inauguration, et cetera, but now coming out and sounding very friendly. But also, this hurts China, something the incoming administration seems favorable to. And like you said, they've said a lot of things about AI. We don't know what they're actually going to do until they take office on the 20th.
Yeah, it's strange for this to happen a week before the end of the administration, which tells me that to a certain degree, is this signaling something on like a political level? Like, well, we tried our best, and then when they undo it, then that's a bargaining chip or some way for the Democrats or those associated with the Biden administration to say, well, look, we tried to do something, and then they, you know what I mean, and then down the line that becomes something that they can possibly get reelected around as one key point. Who the heck knows? It's just a really odd time to put something like this into effect, or at least put a proposal even out there. If it was putting it into effect, I suppose that would be a different story, because then it's like, okay, well, now we have to go through a lot of hurdles to undo this. As a proposal, it really does feel like you said, dead in the water.
It's a proposal, and I've seen it described as, prohibiting GPU sales to most of the world. It's just the highest end GPUs, and it's requiring most of the world to have a lot of paperwork. in order to get the GPUs. I think that's why Microsoft is like, yeah, we like complex things. We're fine with this. But NVIDIA is like, well, whatever you do to slow down sales is going to slow down our sales, and we don't need that right now.
Yeah. And NVIDIA is in a position right now where they are just like, I mean, I feel like NVIDIA is one of the kings of AI right now, as far as the hardware that they're putting out, all eyeballs, all attention on the the progress that they're making. Of course, they don't want something like this. They want it to be absolutely open. So it'll be interesting to see where it heads.
Indeed.
All right, DTNS is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Larry Bailey, Michelle Serju, Kirk Stephenson, and new patron, Thang.
Yay! Welcome, Thang!
Yay!
Woo. There's more we need to know today. Let's get to the briefs. Many of you may have not seen the story last year that Mastodon lost its nonprofit status in Germany. And on Monday, CEO and founder of Mastodon, Eugene Rachko, announced his intention to create a new nonprofit organization based somewhere in Europe to take ownership of, and I'll quote from the Post, key Mastodon ecosystem and platform components. Once the new organization has been created and ownership is transferred, Rachko will focus on product strategy rather than acting as owner. So staying committed to the idea that this is for public benefit, not for personal gain.
Okay. All right. Fired, resigning, quitting, whatever you happen to call it, Sonos CEO Patrick Spence is leaving Sonos after 8 years. Former Snap executive and Pandora co-creator Tom Conrad, who says he has a tattoo of Sonos headphones on his left forearm, don't we all, is now interim CEO. The company has hired a firm to search for a new CEO. Sonos launched a new app in May that was considered buggy at best. Yes, I can agree. I've seen it. My wife uses Sonos, and she's complained about it. Some accessibility features and other capabilities were removed, and many found the interface difficult to use, including my wife.
Yeah. So Tom Conrad has been disconnected.
Nice.
Monday, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the AI Opportunities Action Plan.
AI isn't something sort of the future over the next hill. It's the present. It's already here, in Britain, changing lives. A chance to turbocharge growth, create the companies of the future, and radically improve our public services.
The plan calls for the creation of AI growth zones in deindustrialized areas to fast-track data centers and create easy access to the national energy grid. The first zone will be created in Culham, Oxfordshire. The plan also calls for increasing the state-owned compute power of the United Kingdom by 20 times, including, and probably mostly including, a supercomputer with enough AI power to play itself at chess 500,000 times a second.
That's really the standard we need to base it on is like chess comparisons.
Yeah, that's Greenwich AI standard.
This is how you land it in fact that people can really understand. Counterpoint Research estimates that the worldwide smartphone market grew 4% in 2024. Samsung and Apple each lost 1 point in market share. That's down to 19% for Samsung, 18% for Apple. Xiaomi gained a point to 14%. Oppo also lost a point to 8%, and Vivo stayed steady. Actual unit sales show a 2% decline for Apple, a 1% increase for Samsung, and a 12% jump for Xiaomi. And in some separate data, Tech in Asia reports Apple's iPhone exports from India rose 42% in 2024. Granted, they were starting from a small number, but show India's plan to become a manufacturing center for Apple products actually has momentum.
Back to the UK, the official ratings body Barb measured Netflix as the most watched TV service in the UK for the month September through November, passing the Beeb Auntie, for the first time. Netflix's average audience reach stood at 43.2 million compared with the BBC One's 42.3 million. The Beeb pulled back ahead in December, though, so it's neck and neck. Netflix has been consistently in front of ITV, which would now be the number 3 TV service since March 2023. And of course, BBC One and ITV One have been the UK's most watched networks for decades there. So Netflix in its place at the top.
I prefer not thinking of the BBC when you say the Beeb and thinking of Justin Bieber instead, and it makes that story a little funnier.
He's much farther down in these rankings. That's a good clarification. Yeah.
Adobe launched Firefly Bulk Create, which can replace background images for or resize up to 10,000 images at once. Users can set an image to replace the background or pick a color. Those files are then saved as PNG or JPEG with PSD support coming soon. That was one question I had. That's going to be a nice feature. The resize tool will stretch images with varying results, of course, but could be good for, making multiple ad formats, that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's batch processing, but faster, I guess.
Batch, please.
Ouch. 88.9% of vehicles sold in Norway last year were EVs. That's up from 82.4% in 2023. So the headline is that they're barreling towards 100% EV sales. Some months had EV sales as high as 98%. So they might have a month of 100% in the coming year. By comparison, the UK number was 20% in 2024. The US number was 8%. Those were both up, but they're still quite a bit smaller. Norway's government has raised taxes on fossil fuels and fuel-burning cars and eliminated import duties on low-emission cars, including EVs. However, it did not find it necessary to ban sales of fossil fuel cars. Also build out a lot of chargers. Norway has 447 chargers for every 100,000 people.
All right. Norway knows the way to EV, I guess.
It's cold up there, too. Everybody's like, you can't drive EVs in the cold. Norway's like, hold our vodka.
Yeah, that is really impressive. Go Norway. If you're eagerly anticipating reviews for the NVIDIA 5 series of desktop GPUs, the embargo on reviews, you should know, of the RTX 5090 lift on January 24th. That's a week before the sale date. And then embargoes on reviews of the RTX 5080 will lift the same day. Both series go on sale. That's January 30th. Put it on your calendar.
And finally, Ars Technica reports that developer and tech CEO Guillermo Rauch has made a fully playable CAPTCHA based on Doom. You have to kill 3 enemies to pass the CAPTCHA. Oh, and it's on nightmare mode.
Oh, that's my favorite capture right there.
Yeah, you think finding the stairs or the crosswalks is hard. Why do you didn't get this one?
Just let me kill monsters.
Yeah.
Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper in the ongoing stories and follow-up.
Yeah, I caught up with Matt from iFixit at CES to talk about where we stand with right to repair in the U.S. and found out he has a secret identity.
I'm here talking with Matt, who is 2 people. You're with iFixit.
Yes, I'm the VP of Partnerships with iFixit.
Okay, but you're also part of the Repair Association?
Yeah, I'm on the board of directors for the Right to Repair Association.
So that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. Obviously, iFixit has a lot of great stuff, but a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to introduce people to the idea of right to repair, and then talk a little bit about how iFixit is one of the places you can go to figure out how to repair your things and get the tools you need and all of that. So for people who don't understand right to repair, how do you explain it?
Essentially, as technology has evolved, we've lost our ability to truly own our devices. When you buy a product today, there's a lot of uncertainty about what you can and cannot do with it. And 20 or 30 years ago, it was not the case. When you bought a product, you knew that you could do whatever the hell you wanted to do with it, right? And so right to repair is essentially reclaiming that definition. It is the right of a consumer to decide the terms in which they choose to support that device and extend its lifespan, in simple terms.
So I think a lot of people say, well, sure, I can repair. But when you talk about the impediments to the right to repair, there's multiple things, right?
Yeah.
There's not just the idea of having the legal right. I think a lot of people don't realize they don't have that.
Certainly.
But there's also just the difficulty of getting the manual, getting the parts, even getting into the device.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
I think it's great. It's actually where iFixit and the right to repair movement kind of intersect, is that your products are complicated in terms of copyright ownership and intellectual property, and then physically there's a complicated relationship to how can you actually gain entry. Oftentimes this is led by Apple with the introduction of a new screwdriver bit that nobody was familiar with before, right? And so it wasn't just that you could take a flathead or a Phillips screwdriver and open your device up. Now they've got something called a pentalobe and a Torx and a Torx security, right? iFixit has a variety of products that are influenced by documentation that is contributed by consumers. So we take 100,000 documentation repair manuals from consumers and we say, what is it that people need to repair their products? And that's how the ProTech Toolkit was developed, is what were all of those manuals saying that we needed for bits, right? So this gained entry into a product. And then from there, it's how do you get the right knowledge to do general basic repairs? So a battery replacement, if a product has a lithium battery, the rule of thumb is you have about 18 months until that battery is dead and you begin to lose battery life.
Right.
Which means that you probably have about 24 to 36 months until you as a consumer decides this isn't lasting me all this long all day and I'm going to get a new one, right? This is a problem because we have a growing mountain of e-waste that we just cannot sustain. We have to do better as a society. So iFixit's mission is to teach people how to have the confidence to get into their devices. The Right to Repair Association and our movement is about how do we make sure legally you have access to that information and you have access to the parts and the tools that are required.
So I think a lot of people probably will understand, like, oh, some company, Samsung, Apple, not selling me the parts, that's to be expected.
Sure.
But they may not realize that they would be breaking a warranty or breaking a law if they were to repair. Give me an idea for somebody who's like, wait, what do I need to check with my local police department before I repair something? Like, what are you getting into?
Yeah, the best analogy that I always give on this is if you go and take your car into a Jiffy Lube, there's a big sign on the wall that says, like, you have the right to repair this product and your warranty is not affected. I might have messed up the language there.
Something like that.
But it's all related to the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, which is a 1970s federal law that was passed. It basically says you can replace the tires on your car and has no bearing on your engine warranty from your manufacturer. That principle applies to every product that is sold in the United States today, right? So if I'm a consumer and I have an iPhone 16, Apple has to prove that something I did to it invalidates the warranty. A consumer is totally within their rights to go and do a DIY repair on their product, right? Apple cannot invalidate the warranty. They have to prove the consumer's repair resulted in the issue that they are now asking Apple to fix, right? Now, what Right to Repair is enabling is that the consumer, when they realize there is a repair that is needed to be covered out of warranty, 2 years, whatever, beyond the manufacturing date, that consumer can ask Apple to give me the official documentation and the official parts and any official specialty tools, right? And that's really important because one of the things that Apple is notorious for is implementing software pairing to parts. So iFixit not only creates tools, but we also sell parts. You can go to iFixit.com and buy a battery today. 2 years ago, Apple would actually tell you if you tried to replace your battery, you can't do that. The battery works perfectly fine. But Apple says, no. This is not an Apple battery. And so it's like a check engine light, to go back to the car analogy, that's constantly telling you this battery is less than what we would give you. Right to Repair has basically essentially made Apple backtrack on that policy to create a path to calibrate that aftermarket battery. So if I'll use my personal example, as a consumer, I grew up in a town that was 2.5 hours from the nearest Apple store. And at that point, Best Buy was not an authorized service provider. I can choose now to go and repair my iPhone without needing to go through Apple or an ISP. That wasn't possible when I was growing up, and that is only possible because of Right to Repair laws requiring Apple to better support these products.
Yeah, I think they have a reasonable argument, not that was the only reason they're making the argument, but they have a reasonable argument of anti-theft with the pairing. How do you feel about that? Like, where do you think the line is better drawn?
I think it is insincere. A lot of the members of our repair association and one of the members on our board, Paul Roberts from SecuRepairs, specifically worry about security in repair and devices. And consistently there have been reports and reporting ongoing that proves that is not a major concern. Apple has consistently thrown their lobbyists in alongside CTIA and CTA, who run CES. They've gone into these legislative hearings and said, if you do this, it'll be a security risk, it'll make the famous one is it'll make Nebraska a mecca for hackers.
Right.
That is unfounded. There is no research to support that, and that is simply not true. And oftentimes the reality of that sets in when you actually get a chance to open up your devices and see what it looks like internally.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that why I work for iFixit and why I volunteer for the Right to Repair Association is that this is really empowering to be able to open your device up and to determine on your terms how long does your device last is a really empowering feeling. And being scared about making it a security risk or just damaging something goes away the more familiar you are with your products.
I think the way I think about it is there is a security risk, but it's very small and it's outweighed by...
Fair. I will concede that. I think there could be some security risk. I don't think it is as severe as Apple has made it out to be, and certainly not when it comes to consumer repair.
One last question. Apple or John Deere?
I would argue Apple is worse.
Yeah. Why would you say that? And for anybody who doesn't know, John Deere is famous for trying to prevent farmers from repairing their tractors, saying it's a security risk, software locks and all of that. Why do you think Apple's more intransigent on that?
For all of their faults, Apple was the one that innovated and provided this concept of software using parts pairing in terms of repairs to a product. John Deere merely took Apple's approach and took it and applied it to a different industry. I think Apple has led on this. Now, what I would say is that historically, in my count, and my colleagues may differ, but Apple has been more willing to move on this issue than John Deere has. So just because I think Apple is the worst does not mean they will continue to be the worst.
Sure. Yeah. It's almost like they have a more dynamic range.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, if folks want to learn more, somebody's like, I don't know if I can repair my own devices. I think iFixit is a great place to start. Where should they go? Where should they start?
So if you want to know what's possible to repair your devices, go to repair.org. We have a complete comprehensive overview of what your rights are given your location, whether it's in the United States or elsewhere. But if you want to know how do you do it, you go to ifixit.com and there's free documentation. And then iFixit is a reputable seller for parts, tools, and anything else you might need.
Fantastic. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Join the conversation in our Discord, which you can join by linking to the Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
We're going to end every episode of DTNS Briefing with some shared wisdom or a message. Today, we got one from R.W. Nash, just sharing some enthusiasm for last week's briefings from CES. He wrote, "Oh no, it's a year until the next CES. Deep dive on TikTok, the way forward. I'm now fully up to speed on the whole legal case. Thank you. I think it's going to be a great year for DTNS." Oh, that's nice to hear. I feel encouraged now, don't you?
Yeah. You were so legitimate. Like, you had a room, you had a whole tech set up. Like, I was impressed when I visited on Wednesday. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's the window that makes it really impressive. The fact that
what was kind of depressive is I was so hungry after DTNS and I had to go to a meeting. I got my Quiznos sandwich.
Yeah.
And I sat down on the floor out because I didn't know you guys were still up there. About 2/3 of the way through my sandwich, I look up and I see the back of your head in the window. I'm like, oh, they're still there working. So
yeah, you could eat your sandwich up there with us.
I could have.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would have let you know. But hey, hopefully we get to do it again next year. Hopefully people are enjoying this new format. If you have questions, shoot them to me. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. We are going to have different folks doing it throughout the week. So you'll need to get used to hearing that. Normally on Mondays, it'll be me and Rob Dunwood. Normally on Tuesdays, it'll be me and Jason. But you're doing something special. So we had to rejigger the schedule. It's going to be me and Gwen. Yeah.
I will be here tomorrow.
You will be here tomorrow. Oh, that's right. I was already thinking ahead for next week. It'll be me and Jen Cutter on Wednesdays, Jason and Huen Dao on Thursdays, and then me and Huen on Fridays.
Yay. So exciting. Yeah. I love the mixing, like the recipe kind of aspect of this. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And, shout out to Amos, who is leading the audio editing. And we also have Hammond and Victor on board for audio editing as well. So make them all feel welcome.
Thank you.
Big thanks to you, Jason, for joining me on this. I'm so excited.
Anytime. I'm happy to be here. I'm super thrilled. Thank you, Tom.
Big thanks to Matt and RW Nash for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. The show is made possible by you, our patrons. We could not do this crazy experiment without patreon.com/DTNS. And if you want the live version, the version that is similar to the more discussion-oriented version that you might be used to, head to DTNS Live, and you can even watch it live, YouTube and Twitch. Find out more details about that at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.